This next speaker needs no introduction. Bruce Embrey, co-chair of the Manzanar Committee since 2007.
Welcome to Manzanar. How many of you are here for the first time? Who's first? Wow. Wow. So I guess you need an introduction. We chose our theme, Generational Struggles for Democracy, because we, like so many other people in our country, are concerned about the threats to our democratic way of life. And we believe America actually faces an existential threat to many of our constitutional rights. But we also chose this theme because we know that resistance has been a constant in our nation's history. We know for generations, long before the founding of our republic, people have fought for freedom, whether it was indigenous people fighting against settler colonialism, for slave rebellions, the civil rights movement of the 1960s, or to our decades-long struggle for redress and reparations. As we worry about the future of our country, we know we stand on the shoulders of giants, leaders who gave their all to our community. Today, we honor two such leaders. Jim Matsuoka, a founding member of the Manzanar Committee, a courageous political activist, and Reverend Alfred Suyuki, a Shinto priest who was a popular religious leader and who helped lead our interfaith ceremony for many, many, many years. Both men stood up for and devoted their lives to our community, and that's why we honor them here today. While we call this our 54th pilgrimage, we are continuing a tradition dating back to 1946, when the Buddhist priest, Reverend Maeda, led the first pilgrimage to Manzanar. So this is, in fact, the 77th annual pilgrimage to Manzanar, and like in 1946, where they gathered before the Ireto, we gather here today as well to reflect on our history and pray for those who never returned. The Ireto, which has become the most iconic figure in Manzanar, was dedicated in 1943 in the aftermath of one of the most troubling periods of the incarceration here at Manzanar. So from its very inception, it was designed to console the souls of our families, both behind barbed wire and those that had long since passed. The Ireto has survived the wind and the elements for 80 years. It has also survived the bullets and shotgun blasts from those filled with hate. Yet this beautiful cemetery monument, like our community, remains steadfast, unbowed, and unbroken. Manzanar has another iconic feature, which we consider a monument. It is the bronze plaque on the walkway leading to the interpretive center. It too has endured the elements and survived the hate that tried to erase its message with bullets, hatchets, and chisels. Dedicated at the 1973 pilgrimage, this plaque declared Manzanar was a state historic landmark. This plaque was the first of its kind, the first time any confinement site was recognized by our government. And it was the first time the people who had endured life behind barbed wire reflected on, analyzed, and debated what had happened to them during World War II. The newly formed Manzanar Committee, led by survivors of camp, including my mother, Sue Kunitomi Embrey, Jim Matsuoka, and Rex Takahashi, who's here today, crafted the words on that plaque. The words are forceful and honest: concentration camp, racism, and economic exploitation. They declared America's concentration camps violated every principle of a liberal democracy. They knew the term concentration camp is reserved for sites of the most serious human rights abuses, but they still declared that Manzanar and all the other confinement sites were not just places where their constitutional rights were stripped away, but were concentration camps where their human rights were violated and abused as well. The bronze plaque set in stone 50 years ago this month by the renowned Catholic stonemason Ryozo Kado, the very same stonemason who crafted the beautiful Ireto, calls on us to remember what will happen when racism and economic greed are allowed to override our constitutional rights. While the words on the plaque are all about Manzanar, we know our history is one part of America's tortuous path towards democracy. The survivors of Manzanar knew from direct experience that white supremacy is woven into the fabric of America, but they also knew we can win justice. We believe, as Jim Matsuoka did, that there is no better place than Manzanar to gather and demonstrate our common bonds. This is why today the Manzanar Committee reaffirms its support for the struggles of the indigenous peoples for land and treaty rights. And we wholeheartedly endorse reparations for the Black community. We must embrace the vision and the courage of Jim Matsuoka, Reverend Suyuki, Ryozo Kado, my mother, Sue Kunitomi Embrey, as we work for social justice. We must for the simple reason that fundamental principles are at stake, just as they were in 1942. This is the legacy of Manzanar, the legacy we have inherited and that we can leave for future generations. We leave this legacy for all people of every color and creed to learn from the past in order to build a more democratic future. Thank you.